Hello and welcome to the MLB DFS slate breakdown for Wednesday, August 7th. We do have a two-slate day today. There's a day slate that is just getting on the way right now, but we will be going over the main slate. Just want to make sure I point that out so you guys are going to watch the right video here. Now, we got a decent slate. We're going to go over it all. As always, perfect lineups, winning lineups from yesterday, then the pitchers to consider, followed by some stacks. But before we get to it, please like, comment, and subscribe to the video and to the channel. It helps us a ton, just improve our reach and give you guys more content for free. Now, let's get into this slate. It's a fun one. Got a lot to go over here. And it is only a 7-gamer. And let's check out the perfect lineups yesterday. Tried to skip ahead real quick. But all right, so yesterday's perfect lineup, we got Colin Ray, who went for 58 yesterday. The dude had a game. 7 innings, 9 Ks. Only 92 pitches, so super efficient. Then Milwaukee went nuts, and we have a 2-man Milwaukee stack, 2-man Philly stack, and then some one-offs with the winning lineup going to Tim Ribbs, who had Shota, who I was on big time yesterday. And then we had a 4-man Milwaukee stack and 2-man Philly with 2 one-offs who got it done. So the old 4-2-1-1. Congrats to Tim Ribbs. You did it. You got it done. And let's move over to DraftKings now, where we had Chris Bassett and Colin Ray as the two pitchers went nuts. Bassett was one of the guys I liked yesterday. I had a little bit of him. And then hitting-wise, we had a 2-man Milwaukee stack over here, 2-man Phillies, and one-offs. And the winning lineup went to Firedog50, who it looks like probably had 150 lineups that they made, and they had Shota and Framber Valdez, who Framber was pretty wild story. He goes, 8 innings, 2 outs into the 9th with a no-hitter and gives up a 2-run home run to Corey Seager, which, I mean, had he completed that, he would have been definitely the pitcher you needed, but hey, he just couldn't finish it off. Then hitting-wise, we got a 5-man Milwaukee stack and a 3-man White Sox stack took it down. So the old 5-3. Congrats to Firedog, and let's move it on to today. So our highest owned pitcher, Tariq Skubal, and pretty hard to argue with that one. He is facing the Mariners in Seattle. They strike out a lot. Skubal has been just absolutely dominant all season long. Hard to argue with, him being the chalk. Now, I do have to say there are lots of good pitchers on this slate, so you don't necessarily have to go chalky today. There's definitely ways to get different with good pitchers in solid spots. Skubal is definitely one of those. Good spots, good spot, high owned, but great pitcher. Next, Cole Reagans. There's another one. Good spot, higher owned, not quite as much, and in a versus an offense that isn't as great versus lefties. They're striking out almost 29%, 279 WOBA, 122 ISO. Do have to point out they have been better versus lefties as of late. Boston's hitting 266, 214 ISO, and a 355 WOBA versus lefties over the last 20 games. So they have been much improved lately, but on the season, you've definitely wanted to target the Red Sox if you are a lefty, and that's what we got here. At only 9K, he has big-time upside. I definitely am intrigued with a little Reagans. Next, we got Chris Sale. Sale has been absolute dominant, just like Skubal. The only difference here is that he's not in quite as good of a spot. Milwaukee does strike out a decent amount, 23.6%. They got a low WOBA, low ISO, As of late, they're hitting 243 with a 125 ISO and 321 WOBA. I am absolutely willing to go a scale. The Brewers just aren't as good versus a lefty, and with a lefty on the mound, it's going to be a little harder for them to run, a little harder for them to manufacture those runs. I very much like Chris Sale in this spot. Next, we got George Kirby, just on the other side of Skubal. He doesn't have quite the upside as Skubal, but he's going way cheaper. And the dude is just lights out at home. 30% more fantasy points at home. He's versus the Tigers, who aren't that great of an offense. And versus righties, 233, 155 WOBA, ISO under a 300 WOBA. I am very much on board with taking some George Kirby at home, where his K rate is higher. He is better. Just has a higher ceiling. I am all on board the Kirby train at lower ownership. Next, we got Freddie Peralta versus the Braves. Another very, very good pitcher with real solid upside. Now, he's been off a little bit over, the last 5 starts or so. He got beat up by LA, got beat up by Washington, got beat up by Miami a little bit. Had good starts versus Minnesota and versus the Braves last week. But now he's facing them twice in a week, which is always a little bit hard. But he has done well versus the Braves in the past. Got lit up last year versus them. Had a decent start this year. Just crushed them in 2022. But if you can see, a lot of his, BVP numbers are from a while ago. And pretty hard to say the Braves team is the same one as it was 2 years ago, even though it does have a lot of the same players. So interested in Peralta. His price is down. We have him at 2.3x. You can absolutely take him, but I would say all 5 of these pitchers are absolutely in play, and I don't mind just going to Kirby and Peralta. So you're going to mid-range with huge upside. Very intrigued with that. Or Reagans and Kirby and Peralta. Another option that I like a lot is Taj Bradley. Taj Bradley has been great over the short term. The one thing is, I do have to point out that he is averaging 37% less fantasy points away. Now, his run lately has been mostly at home starts. However, he lit up the Yankees away. He lit up Toronto away. Had a decent game against Texas away. I don't mind this, away situation. Really, he just got lit up against Baltimore away. Outside of that, he's been fine away. So I'm not going to look too much into that. All in all, I think Bradley has been pitching absolutely amazing. 2.8 FIP, 27% K rate. He has super high upside. That strikeout stuff is there. He's only 9.2K. We got him at 2.3x. The Cardinals offense doesn't scare me that much. The only thing is they just don't strike out as much as some of these other teams, so maybe the upside isn't quite as high there. Now, Trevor Rogers versus the Blue Jays. He's super cheap, so I get why you'd want to go there, but I just don't think he has a ceiling, and for that reason, I'm kind of out. Tyler Phillips versus the Dodgers. It's Dodgers teams that's going to start hitting again. Freddie Freeman is back. That helps them a lot. I don't really love going to Tyler Phillips in this spot. And then, if you want to go with the Colorado pitcher, I wish you the best, but who knows? Cutter Crawford versus the Royals offense. It's really good at home, and he's been just bad lately. So hard for me to want to go there. If you want to bounce back performance, maybe he has done well against them this season with 7 innings, 4 Ks, no earned runs. But Royals just aren't striking out much. Cutter Crawford doesn't have huge strikeout stuff. Ceiling might not be there in this situation. I really think that it's pretty much the upside of all these guys. We should maybe go to Eric Fedde a little bit here too. We have him at 2.5x, which makes him interesting. 3.86 FIP over his last 20 starts. He has been a solid pitcher. He's fallen off a little bit lately, but now he is with the Cardinals. It is in a nice spot. The run total is only 7.5. If you want another value guy, he is definitely one you can throw in there at lower ownership. We have him at a nice 19% projection, 23% combined K rate. He has enough upside to get it done. So that is probably my favorite under 8K spot to go. Let's get over to FanDuel, check out what we have here for pitchers before we check out stacks. All right, so Tyreek Skubal, highest owned. He's 11.1K, 29% owned. I mean, you can't fight the spot. It is a great spot. I'm definitely on board with Skubal. Reagan's, Sale, both of them are in solid spots. I'm very intrigued by either of those at a little lower ownership. And then George Kirby at 10.1K with 15% owned is extremely interesting. My favorite pivot is Taj Bradley. Don't mind taking a chance on Freddie Peralta as well. But really, I think that with these like 6 guys, their ceiling is just so much higher than everybody else that I have a hard time to going to anybody else on DraftKings. Even Fetty, who's priced up to almost 9K, at that price, I don't think I want to go there. He just doesn't have near the upside as everybody else. I'm pretty much just sticking to those, 6 guys or so, and hoping one of them goes nuts in the right lineup. I like all 6 of them. All of them are in decent spots and have a huge ceiling. We don't really need to get too crazy today on the pitcher front. Now, let's get to some stacks. So we do have a Colorado game. Obviously, ownership is going to go there. Ownership is going to be on the Dodgers. There's going to be some ownership on Baltimore and Toronto. I think all are decent plays. And the best value play we have right now is Toronto. And I absolutely love this as a value play. Toronto's been hitting the ball decently lately. They also are very good versus lefties. Trevor Rogers just got absolutely lit up last game out and really has continued to get lit up. He just hasn't been that great lately. 3.5 FIP, 3.68 over the last 20. He can have decent games, but he's just not that great of a pitcher at this point of his career. Dodgers are popping up against Tyler Phillips. He has a 5.21 FIP. Makes a lot of sense to want to go to some of these Dodgers guys. The one thing I would say is Biggio, Kike, Hayward, Ahmed. Like, none of them are just going to really win you a fantasy day. For a Dodger stack, I really believe you need at least 2 of Hernandez, Smith, Freeman, Ohtani. Like, those are the guys that really make this offense go, and without 1 or 2 of them going, the offense probably doesn't score that many runs. So that is the one thing I got to say about them. Let's get over to the highest owned stacks now. And highest owned, we got Mets versus Feltner. Now, Feltner is not a great pitcher. Freeland was solid yesterday. The Mets didn't quite get there. Feltner, I think you can absolutely pick on, and he is going to be high, or going against him is going to be high owned. But the Mets are in a good spot in Colorado. They've been hitting well. Definitely on board with that. Our highest projected stacks now, I would guess it is still going to be the Mets. Yep, Mets are all over it. And we got to scroll pretty far down to get some Phillies in there versus Gavin Stone, and some Baltimore versus Bowden Francis, which also is a decent little play there. And let's check the ceiling plays just to see what we got there and can talk through that a little bit. Highest ceiling, we got Boston versus Cole Reagans. Boston's been hitting lefties a little bit better. Reagans is a solid pitcher. I don't like stacking against him, but when you're talking about this low of ownership versus a team that can score fantasy points in a lot of different ways and have real big games, it's a little intriguing. All right, so now to the teams. Highest implied run total, 5.9 with the Mets. Colorado, 5.1. So those are obviously the 2 better targets of the day. I don't mind trying to pick on Blackburn. Don't mind trying to pick on Feltner. Both of them aren't great, and the bullpens behind him are meh. Colorado bullpen is absolutely terrible. And then we have the Dodgers versus Tyler Phillips and Baltimore versus Toronto. The thing that is so nice about facing Toronto is the bullpen behind Bowden Francis is terrible. Also, Francis pitched a few days ago. He only did go 5 pitches, but maybe that is enough to just make his pitch count a little bit lower. All in all, I wouldn't expect him to go, 100 pitches. He's probably more like 70s max. So you're going to get some bullpen versus Baltimore, which is obviously interesting. Atlanta versus Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta is a 5.45 FIP over his last 5. So you can absolutely try and pick on him a little bit with an explosive offense in Atlanta, who seems to be hitting the ball a little bit better. KC versus Cutter Crawford. Crawford's been terrible lately. 7.5 FIP over his last 5. High hard contact rate, high average exit velocity. The bullpen's average behind him. KC makes some sense. You're just taking a 1.3 lower implied run total than the Mets. That's not enough for me to say, nah, I'm not going there. I think KC definitely has some interest, as does Toronto. Philadelphia is a good enough offense that you got to consider them as well. Now below here, you're pretty much just going to leverage spots. Not likely the Cardinals are going to get to Bradley. Could they? Absolutely. But not that likely. Boston, you're getting some leverage. Milwaukee, you're getting some leverage. Seattle, you're getting some leverage. Detroit, you're getting some leverage. Those stacks, it's more of a game theory for why you put them in. The likelihood of them going is, not as high. Could it? Yeah, it's baseball. Anything can happen. So that'll do it for us today, guys. Good luck. Let's make some money. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.